Welcome to the DCA podcast, where time doesn't work.
Mr.Wzrd, I appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much. I would love to hear a couple things right off the get-go. Your name, Mr.Wzrd, where did that come from? Also, how did you transition into being at the helm of a project like Y2K? I would love to hear all about it.
Yeah, so Mr.Wzrd came. I mean, I'm just huge into like fantasy. Like this is Gandalf's sword right here, and then I have his sword tattooed on me here. I just always loved wizards. I don't know why. When I was like playing World of Warcraft, I was like a mage, so I just like always had this obsession with fantasy. And then I like nicknames. This was even before crypto. People just like code names and stuff. So I just chose that. And then when I became a developer, it became like my like alt developer, I guess, account, Mr.Wzrd. So yeah, that just stuck around, especially like in crypto. You needed like a like unanimous name or anonymous name. So Mr.Wzrd kind of stuck there. Yeah. And in terms of how I got Y2K, that's like a long story. I mean, I like originally got into memes back in 2023 when like Whiff really started running, and I just got like really meme pilled. Just because I knew essentially I was like trying to front run the cycle where I was like, okay, everyone eventually goes down to memes. Originally it started off as just like you're going down the risk curve, everyone's going to go to memes eventually. So I kind of already missed the soul run in the beginning because I was here last bear market and I was like trying to get soul when it was like $20. I was like, I wanted to go lower, and then just started going up more. And my whole plan was like, I'm just gonna put my entire like savings into Soul and just ride that for like a free 10x or whatever, which would have been a great plan and exactly what happened, but I just didn't execute because I got greedy on the downside. And I was like, okay, if I,
lower.
yeah, I was just like, because I had this whole magic plan, which never happens. I was like, okay, it's going to hit 15. I'm going to put like 10 grand. I'm going to get this X, the $1 million. It's like perfect plan. Like it was such a good idea. It really was a good idea, but I just got too greedy and it just kept going up. And I was like, it's going to correct. It's going to correct. And then I'm also a horrible trader. I'm like, I guess like a vibe investor. And I was like, fuck it, whatever. If Soul's not going to go down, then I'm just going to go down the risk curve. And then I just went straight to memes because I was like, okay, no brainer. And then Whiff, like the bonk Whiff started happening, and I got really meme pilled. And then memes became much more of a like statement against the current landscape of CT and crypto in general. And I'm big on like narratives. I love to get behind narratives. I love doing things for like a bigger cause just because it makes the game like that we're playing more fun. And I was like, oh fuck the VCs, like everything's a scam, memes are the only true crypto. And I was like, I still do believe that. We kind of lost our way, obviously, but I was like really meme pilled before, like even Murad and the super cycle thesis. Like I was like, oh, this is different this time because I felt the sense of community. I came from NFTs back in 2021, and I was like, wow, memes are something special. And then over time, I started getting a little bored with just like singular memes, just like regular meme images, because I started to get culture pilled. Shout out Mog. Mog was like the first one that really unlocked my, I guess, perspective about what it means to tokenize culture. And I was like, oh, this could be represented in so many different ways. And you could see on the timeline, they have a mascot, but it was being represented in terms of videos, just the word Mog, and just like they had a whole culture behind the coin. And then it kind of clicked for me. I was like, this is a much more sustainable path to building like community and like a tokenized asset, like a tokenized meme around. I was like, because when the price goes down, it's not like people stop participating in the culture. You just still have the culture that's just the foundation. But when the price goes up, that culture gets, I guess, enhanced by the reflexivity and the volatility of the memes. And then I got fully culture pilled. And then I was like, I'm only buying culture because culture's the end game. I still believe that. I'm still a huge fan of culture. And then right around, I forget when it happened, it was like January of 2024. The like memes were at almost like their bottom. Culture was like at zero. And I was the only one kind of like preaching this culture coin thesis. There was a couple others on the timeline talking about that, but I was telling people like, no, the culture is like the most fun thing to be a part of, like because of I guess there's less downward reflexivity because people still like the culture. And then I like really just found like Y2K randomly. Like Zap, who was like the original founder of it, is no longer with the project, but he was like the original founder. And then he kind of just sent me, he's like, yo, I'm doing like Y2K. I was like, sick, I'll look at this. And then instantly it kind of clicked. I was like, oh, nostalgia, like universal like language of nostalgia. Everyone gets it. I love the like old retro UI aesthetics. And I was like, oh, this is a no-brainer. And it was kind of just, I kept giving him ideas. I was like, oh, we should do like this. Like this content would be really cool. And then I kind of used Y2K as my vessel to share my like culture coin thesis. Cause I thought Y2K, I still think Y2K is one of like the perfect examples of like a culture coin through in and throughout, just because like nostalgia is universally known outside of crypto, but then inside we have our own culture. So unlike older culture coins, which I guess like random ones, like I mean, I respect for like ticker Bitcoin and things like that, but it's a very niche culture. It is a very strong culture, but it's niche. Like you have a lot of work that you need to do to get it to mainstream attention, just because people don't get what it is. But Y2K nostalgia was like, oh, I mean, you don't have to explain what nostalgia is; everyone just gets it. So I was like, oh, this is like this is like what a true culture coin looks like. And then I pretty much, I don't know, I just kept bull posting it and just became like a huge proponent of like Y2K. And then I just fell in love with the like creative direction that we can go. And then I kind of used as my creative outlet, and then just somehow became like one of the main leads. And then, yeah, like that's kind of how we got to where we are today.
Very, very cool. So you said that Zap, it sounded to me like he actually was the one that launched the coin.
Yeah. So Zap launched the coin back in October, I think it was 31st, 2024.
I
Yeah,
believe. Yes.
2024. Yeah, 2024. He launched that. And the original way he was launching it was like, it got messed up with snipers and bundlers and all that. But then it got like distributed over time, because the original people that kind of bought in like ended up rugging the project essentially. And then essentially it was like me, Zap, and a couple other people that were kind of doing the project. Zap like ended up having to deal with like personal stuff and just could no longer really run a project. So he kind of like bounced. And then I kind of like, there was a lot of people depending on me, and we had a big community, and I just like I couldn't leave. And it got like really hard when no one really believed in like what we were doing for a while, for the past like, I guess like year. I mean, we've been going for like a year and 4 months, but there was some really like hard times, but we have a great community of people that care, and it's still a really fun project. And I was just like, well, fuck it. Like I'm just going to go down with the ship if it goes down. Luckily that hasn't happened. And we're seeing like some incredible progress with what we're doing, and we have a lot of cool initiatives. But yeah, it was just like, I couldn't leave. Just cause my reputation was like tied to it, which was fine. And I like care a lot about my name, and I didn't want to like stain that. So yeah, I stayed with it, and I'm really glad I did. And we have like a lot of sick things that we've been doing.
Yeah, you guys have had a lot of really, really cool stuff that you've been doing that I definitely want to get into. I'm real curious about community and the evolution of community. Based on what you just said, and just like looking through some of your past on the timeline, it sounds to me like you came to Y2K kind of just as a buyer of nostalgia. And then over time, people became more reliant on you. You ended up getting into more of a leadership role, which eventually kind of, it seems to me, looking from the outside, that you are one of, if not the leader of the project. Obviously involved with some other members, but I want you to speak on the evolution of the community and how that happened over time. And was it something that you thought about, like, or was it just something that kind of blossomed, like, basically a flower from a seedling? And maybe you could talk on that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, the evolution of kind of like the Y2K community, I guess, is as organic as it gets. Obviously in the beginning, when everything's green, like we launched, and I mean, obviously it was like the meme super cycle. So things were getting crazy. And then you have community, obviously if prices going up, community has never been better. And then you really find out who your core community is after like you get a bunch of red days, and a lot of time goes on and it's kind of boring. And then you're like, well, what do I do now? And then we really found our like true holders. And then from there, we kept iterating on kind of our lore and our like internal culture, which is something that I found very fun. The like, idea of the Renaissance came to be, where it was like, okay, what are we really doing here with Y2K? Because I always viewed, I think nostalgia is one of the most like powerful tools in, I guess, psychology and society in general. There's this concept called the nostalgia cycle, which is every 20 or 25 30 years, nostalgia kind of loops back in society as like
Mhm.
people go from like being born to people in power, and they're like tastemakers, and they're kind of calling back to their like marketing roots, which is why you're seeing like 2000s 90s nostalgia everywhere. It's just because that's very relevant in culture, and that's what like we grew up on. So it's like very prominent. And then I just started seeing how much nostalgia is used in psychology, and that idea of like the Renaissance kind of came to be. And then we were like, okay, the community started talking about like what is really the goal of Y2K, and then we're like kind of revive culture, because we felt as a community that society was kind of going down this path, losing its way with paying attention to detail, doing things for the love of the game, caring about things. A lot of like shows and movies are kind of bland. This is like a known trend. So we're like, what can we do as a community that could be the most impactful? And that's kind of just like revive culture, which is where the Renaissance came to be. And a Renaissance literally means like a rebirth of culture. So it's kind of very fitting how that all came. And then over time, we started to get kind of our like main community sorted out. So we had like the Renaissance, then we had like the archive, which was like the core people in the community. And then we developed this concept called like Unit 2000, which is like our almost, we're trying to build it like a hierarchy system.
Mhm.
Um, where now Unit 2000 is kind of like our like generals or something, and they're kind of leading like the Renaissance. And it sounds like dumb and whatever to like kind of like play this like role playing thing that we're doing, but it makes it way more fun, and it makes it way more engaging, and it turns it into almost like a video game. And I think that if you and your community are able to play a game and have fun with it the whole time, you're going to be able to outlast like anyone, because you're doing it for the fun, not for the price, not for number to grow up. You're doing it because it's a fun game to play. So the more things you could do to turn your community and culture and like gamify that process, the better off you'll be. So throughout this whole time, yeah, we've just been coming up with our own lore, figuring out cool things. Are what's great about right now where we are with the Renaissance is that people have really stepped into their specific roles. We have people doing content, we have people running like the socials, we have people bull posting, and everyone's kind of doing their own thing, and it's becoming a much stronger force.
Mhm.
And before, like Shills also helped with this, which we'll get into, but it really felt like it was like my project essentially. Became for a while, it was like I felt I have to bull post this 24/7. Like I feel like it would die without me. But over time, I mean, we've been around for like a year and 4 months now. It really became distributed, and there's not really any key man risk. And it's I'm not even like the main lead anymore. We have like multiple people doing leads, and it's like I don't even have to bull post in order for people to like know Y2K exists, just because everyone's doing their own role, and it's a much more team effort as opposed to one man. And it's like a much more sustainable thing, because it's very hard if you take all of the heat on you, which I was for a while. It becomes much better. So yeah, I think right now, like we have our core community members, everyone's doing their own job. It's a really fun game to play, and it's just like a really strong like community foundation. So it was a very like long evolution into finding out who actually cares and who actually wants to build something great.
Oh man, that was such a good answer. I totally agree. And part of the thing that I just heard you say was you over time you see who's sticking around, especially through the bad times. You see who your brethren are. You see who the real community members are. And it seems to me, based on what you just said, that people stepped up over time. I'm curious, what were those conversations like, right? Because you came from a point where you weren't a lead of the project. You weren't one of the main bull posters, so to speak. And eventually you turned into that. Now you say you don't even have to bull post anymore, and there's really not a failure point into the project. What were those conversations like to where those people, other members of the community stepped up? They started grabbing the reins. How did you make that transition?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of different ways. One is just full transparency with your community and like the work that you're putting in. So we have Sunday, like Renaissance recaps every other Sunday. We were doing it like every week, but now we're doing it every other Sunday just because we have more things to talk about and always more updates. So essentially, like I look at it where I was like trying to build a team where before there was no really team effort. Like it kind of just like help people doing everything. And then you're getting more transparent with how things are running. You're getting more people involved. Like you're asking them to do an effort. Unit 2000 was another initiative that we took where essentially we gave people like their own custom profile picture, which is essentially kind of like a team jersey. And it's not to say like you have to be a maxi of Y2K or anything. It just makes you feel more emotionally connected to it, which is, and we don't have any NFTs, so this is just kind of like our way to do that. Yeah. And yeah, so everyone got like team jerseys and it started to become more of a team effort. But the biggest thing I guess is I'm a big believer in leading by example. So there was just like a couple people, like shout out Stunna, shout out Simulate, shout out Dot, like all these people were like we're kind of like I guess core. There's more people in the core where I sat them down, like we used to do team calls, and I was like, listen, like I don't really care what happens. Like, we're just gonna grind so fucking hard that we're just gonna inspire people to be like, okay, they just want to work with us. Because I think that the best, I guess, leaders and like team leads, like they lead by example, similar like to Elon and all these other people. Like they're sleeping on the office floor, like just grinding so hard, and just like you want to be around that kind of energy. So we would just work tirelessly, talk about what we're doing, talk about the work ethic, and really make people fall in love with the process of like the journey, where it's like we're not talking about price, we're not talking about the end game. Like the whole point is to essentially like be better than we were yesterday. We're trying to grow our skills, we're trying to be better. And it's just when you have that kind of culture, people want to naturally join that and they naturally want to step up, which is like what we saw that. So it takes a while because you have to prove yourself and you can't just BS about it. And like after a year and 4 months of grinding like every single day, people were like, okay, like these people were legit, and then they just want to help us. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with you. And leading by example is crucial, I feel like. And I love what you said about somebody like Elon, right? Sleeping in his office when he's running PayPal, not going home, not showering. I read things some people where people literally said, dude, you need a shower. But
Yeah.
he's diehard getting PayPal off the ground. When you watch a leader, and I feel like this goes for life and business and anything, when you watch somebody leading by example, not just running their mouth, but actually walking and doing the action themselves, it is people gravitate to that completely. And I think that that is one thing that sets you apart. I think it sets Y2K apart as well. Nostalgia is something that I want to hit on. I can speak about Y2K specifically. Y2K is the only project, from my perspective, that I see some of the graphics you guys put out at a glance. I'm talking a millisecond. I'm not talking about I see that thing for fucking 10 seconds. It flashes across the screen and it brings me back to the sounds, the smells, the tastes. I see a Nintendo 64 controller and weird little things, a Kanye image. And I flash back to that moment and I can actually feel it. That is what nostalgia is to me. And that is something Y2K has that I personally haven't experienced with another project. Now, is nostalgia, I know that you use that word a lot for Y2K, but is nostalgia something that only Y2K has? Are there other projects that hit on nostalgia? And how do you think nostalgia separates you from your competition?
Yeah. So one, like the point that you said, what's unique about nostalgia is it's like Y2K is not really a coin that you hold. It's like more so a coin that you feel. And the reason why our community has this, like, we're inherently like all like brothers and sisters is because we have this almost like lifelong glue that keeps us together, that we all like grew up with the same childhood and stuff. It's like, oh, you grew up like this, and it already has this closer connection. So you have this pre-connection before even getting into the community where you guys all share that. And it's also cool where different, I guess, like countries and cultures have their own nostalgia. Like people in like Europe have their own nostalgia, and we have like Europeans that are in Y2K and they have their own little like nostalgia, like glue that holds them together. So it's a very powerful emotion, and I think that's what makes Y2K special. Other projects have nostalgic elements to them for sure. Like I like Murad talks about how like SPX and Eons were inspired by like 2000s like cyberpunk, like anime stuff like that. MOG is like old MOG gaming. We have like Troll, right, which is like OG meme. So everyone taps into nostalgia, and people love nostalgia just because it's so like universally felt. And people talk about coins that inspire emotion, and I don't think anything inspires as much emotion as nostalgia. with Y2K, what we did was we became known as like tokenized nostalgia. So other coins have nostalgic elements in them, but that's not their entire brand and identity, and that's not their mission and their narrative. It's not just nostalgia. So we essentially like created the narrative that like Y2K is tokenized nostalgia, and over time that became true. And we've had countless other projects launch trying to do like nostalgia, but none of them have lasted. One, because they don't like give a fuck about actually nostalgia; they're just trying to like rug their followers. And two, it is so hard to create a project on nostalgia that makes you want to hold the coin. We didn't want to be just another engagement nostalgia page. We didn't want to be like something that people just kind of like to be something that people want to hold and buy and participate in. It takes so much work to create like a mission, a narrative people can get behind, figure out our content strategy, make things almost like a digital brand where people have a bigger connection to digital brands as opposed to just like theme pages. So other like we spent a year and 4 months figuring out the sauce to do that, which is why no other nostalgia coin that wanted to be nostalgia has lasted. Everyone has died, and this Y2K has been the only one that lasts just because we're taking it seriously. We understand where it goes. And yeah, I mean, it is a very hard thing to represent in the coin, but if done correctly, it's like extremely powerful.
Oh man, I fully agree with you. And the nostalgia aspect of a project like Y2K is something that I can actually feel. It's hard for me to even convey in words. It touches me in my core. It absolutely does. Would you say that the market conditions, let's say over the past month, over the past 3 months, especially with Q4 coming up, people really expected Bitcoin to launch and for alts to take off, and it didn't happen? Would you say long term that that is helpful for real projects like you, real projects like Y2K, where it essentially forces the cream to rise and the weak ones to die off?
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm like, I love any market condition. I'm able to kind of like shift my perspective. And if the market's down, I'll be like, okay, now is our opportunity to grow and learn. And if the market's up, then we take advantage of like volatility in the market. But down markets really reveal who's in it for the long haul and who's actually built on something real. And the beauty of, I guess, culture coins and specifically Y2K and like DCA too, you guys are culture within. So like finance culture and just any culture. It's that just because the price goes down doesn't mean you start participating in the culture and stop having fun. And that culture and that idea kind of keeps you guys together through the downtime to make you build a stronger foundation. That way, all of these assets, all these tokens are built on one thing. It's just like belief in the underlying asset and community. And if you don't spend enough time in that belief and foundation layer, then when the time comes, the foundation falls apart and then you have nothing real to sustain it. So if you're, I kind of look at it like every day the market's kind of in this downward spiral and you continue to survive another day, you're tightening this reflexivity coil. All memes, all these assets that have no fundamentals, they're all based on like reflexivity, which means the more people feel emotionally connected to it, the higher the price goes. The more like they get emotionally attached, the higher the price goes. So essentially, it's a direct correlation between price and emotion. And every day that you are tightening like the reflexivity coil by surviving like a shitty market condition, you just add to that spring that eventually just explodes. And then you have all of these kind of layers where it's like, oh, wow, they've been around for a year and a half. They have really good community. They have great content. They have a great vision and narrative. And then you could see like these points where they're like, oh, wow, this makes no sense. Like, this is a no brainer. This is a gem. Like this should be going like sky high and through the roof because you have such a strong foundation be built as opposed to just some dumb meme that doesn't do anything and it goes up and they're like, whatever, this is short term. Like now you have people actually believing in the actual coin, which is key. And so this down period, however long it lasts, gives you the ability to really like build in that reflexivity just before you kind of like explode. So it's about having a bigger purpose than just focusing on price that will allow you to survive like any market condition.
Nice, man. Well said. I want to read a little bit of a quote, if you will. It's from your tokenized community thesis for Y2K. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's some pretty powerful things that you said. And I want to ask you a couple questions afterwards. People with conviction don't just hold. They build, evangelize, defend, and create. They show up every day because they believe in what the community represents. They recruit others because they want to share something meaningful. They weather the volatility because their investment isn't just financial. Communities scale differently than businesses. They don't need infrastructure or employees, just more believers. When conviction spreads, token value grows. No overhead, no geographic limits, no permission required. What would you say in the tokenized communities is the single biggest factor between successful ones and unsuccessful?
I think the biggest thing is being able to focus on something that isn't number go up. So if your community is just talking about price and that's it, and they don't care about the culture or the actual meme, they're just trying to be in this trade for like a speculative, like short-term outlook, then it's not going to survive. But all the best communities are able to use their coins as vessels to learn and grow from. So, for example, with Y2K, right? Like I'm able to build technology with it. I'm able to learn branding with it. I'm able to learn social media. I'm able to learn how to manage. I'm able to learn how to grow community. Other people are able to learn how to write. They can help lead as well. Like you have the ability to build skills and grow, and it turns into this video game. And I find so much joy from just like progression in life that it doesn't even matter what the coins are doing. It's just like we're all having fun, kind of like skill maxing and leveling up, all while building up the coin. And it's like if you can use your coin to do that, it becomes so much less about price. Like that's just an afterthought. Like each person is essentially becoming a stronger community member and your nodes are getting stronger. And like that's how you build this really strong decentralized node network that is like almost bulletproof because each person is like growing and getting better. And so if you can use your coin to do that and it could be kind of adaptive in any way, then you're going to be able to outlast any competition because it's less about the actual price and it's about the journey. And like, there's this like quote that I reference a lot in my like spaces and stuff where it's like the man who enjoys walking will walk further than the man who enjoys the destination.
Wow.
And it's a great quote because it's like real. It's like fall in love with the process, fall in love with like walking, and like you'll walk forever. It doesn't matter if the market's up or down, because if the market's down, no one's paying attention to you. This is the time to experiment, to grow, figure out your foundation, which is like what we did with Y2K, right? The market's ass. So then we looked at our whole social media strategy. We're like, how do we use nostalgic engagement to grow? So we started Operation Engagement October like 27th. I had like the date on the analytics, and we were just messing around with our content. Like I thought that people loved our content and we had this very strict schedule, but we weren't growing. So I was like, fuck it. No one's paying attention. We have time to like rebrand. We have time to experiment. This is the time to innovate because no one's paying attention. So we started redoing our social media. We launched Operation Engagement, which is like every time we do some kind of like task, we call it an operation. Just it adds to the gamification and the lore. So we Operation Engagement, led by Stunna, Joe or Mo, Vene, Turbo, like Explore Water. If I missed anyone, sorry. But yeah, they're doing such a great job of like their task. I was like, you guys learn how to do social media, learn how to use nostalgia, and like, let's get some engagement on the account. So we have people creating specific content, and it took a while, but now every other post we're doing gets 100,000 views. Like the last post we got had like 27,000 likes, 600,000 views.
Damn.
Like we've been gaining like 1,000 followers every like 3 weeks. Like we just hit
crazy numbers.
Crazy. We hit 11,000 followers like on February something. Now we're at 11.5. It's like we're going exponential growth because we're caring about like something that we can control, right? We can't control the market. We cannot outwork the market. What we can do is just continue to work and grow on something like engagement, which happens regardless of market conditions. And the cool part is we essentially then made our culture about like the numbers. So now our community gets excited about like the right kind of numbers, which is like, wow, this post blew up. Like last night we were talking about it. We're like, okay, let's try to break our record on our content post, which was like 300 likes. We got 500 likes. It was like, okay, 1% better every day. So it's like, by the time the market comes back, you're going to have eventually a Y2K be like 100,000 followers getting crazy engagement. They're like, wow, this is fucking sick. What was I even rambling about? What was the question?
Oh man, the question was a long time ago, bro, but you're spitting such fire. Keep on going. Man, I like what you're saying. Worry about what you can control. Don't worry about what you can't. I think that it is absolutely amazing, man, that you guys are honing in and getting better at the craft that you can actually do anything about. price action, there's nothing we can do until liquidity flows back in. There's not a whole lot of people even buying anything, but you guys are focused on what you can. And I find it incredible too that a lot of those people that are engaging probably don't even know there's a coin involved.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful. Like that's really long term. And then once they start following and they get really hooked emotionally, then they find out there's a coin involved. You have them. You have them. You have believers at that point.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I realized where, I mean, there's a lot of lessons like throughout that I've learned, like helping lead a project and just trying to like just do shit where I was like, okay, yeah, A, focus on what you can control. That's like the biggest thing by like a mile. Like B, you cannot outwork the market. Like you have to understand what market condition you're in and you have to adapt to what that is. And you have to work with the resources you have. So we don't have the largest community. We don't have like any funding. We're not on PumpSwap yet. We'll talk about the migration, but I've been self-funding this for the past like year out of my pocket. And I was like, I just can't, like we were paying a whole talent team. I was like, I can't do this. Like, what can we do with the least amount of capital, but has the highest amount of impact with the people we have? And I was like, okay, well, what's extremely impressive to get online? Attention. Attention's value. What if we just focused on just growing our account and just becoming a massive like digital brand, which is exactly what we're doing, which doesn't cost that much money, right? Like we have a creative team that we pay. It's not too expensive. It's affordable. And then we have people from the community helping create content. And then we're focusing on just learning how the algorithm works. And it's like, this is what we're focusing on. Now the platform's getting big. And I think that this is what the best kind of projects are able to do. They're able to figure out a way to break into mainstream. Neat is a great example of this. They've broken into mainstream culture. Every post they get is like insane. Like they print millions of views. And I think attention is currency. Attention is valuable. If you can garner attention in today's society, like that is a valuable thing. And when you have community and you have attention, and then you're building a brand and an asset based on that, like that's something that's very impressive because that's something that can't be replicated. And just like, it's kind of like proof of engagement, you could say, where people can launch another Y2K, but then we're gonna be, okay, your Y2K token, like what's it doing? Like we have our account, which has like 11,000 followers. We're getting millions of views. We have this community. Like good luck. Like good luck winning. This is different than like a fucking dog that launches and then everyone's PvPing the same dog because there's no proof. Like, okay, this one launched first, but this one's the OG dev, but this one, there's so much PvP nonsense. But if you have a large social media account and you have a community, they're like, there's a point of like a source of truth, almost like blockchain, where it's like the longest chain is a source of truth. Now it's like the biggest account is the source of truth. And I think it's such a valuable thing to have for an asset, because then if you build that distribution and that attention online, that's able to flow into any other venture. So we have clothing coming out. We can have products coming out. We can have our own nostalgic apps. Like we have our own distribution, which is so valuable to have, because like having attention online is so valuable. And we did a great job of essentially like our main account. If you scroll on it, it doesn't look like a meme account. Like that was very intentional. We have our community there. We have our website listed, but it's like the focus is nostalgia culture, getting in people that just like the nostalgia culture, and then over time trying to convert those into actual holders. So we have a Discord that we can funnel people in. Like they'll be more aware of it. We have spaces on the main page. So eventually people will get curious and realize like, oh, this is cool. Like I like nostalgia. I like this culture. I like the project. I like the brand. Like how do I become a holder? And this is how you do it in a non-annoying, non-spammy way, where now we're going to mainstream. Like we're taking action and we're like, this is sick. Like, this is what tokenized community, tokenized culture could look like. And I think that this is kind of how you make meme coins go mainstream that lasts. And it's by doing these, like getting attention online. So I think that's pretty much why it's been our core focus. And I think it's incredibly important for a project. And I'm very proud of like Operation Engagement and the team that's ran that to pull it off, because we've done it in like a very short time. And then eventually we get exponential growth. And then it's just undeniable that like Y2K is something that should not be faded.
I agree with you. I think that it's impressive how you guys have been able to bob and weave, so to speak, and roll with the punches and pivot. And that really separates you guys from a lot of projects. And that's why I think you guys are going to do awesome long term. I want to pivot to the migration, which you briefly touched on. I know that is a big deal. You guys have a migration coming up, I believe, or you might have already entered into the first phase of it. That is, I know from personal experience, it's a little bit scary. I want to hear, based on your perspective and maybe some of your core community guys, what were those talks like? What was that decision like? And what do you look forward to with the migration?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it just came down to it just wasn't affordable for me personally to fund it. And when the market conditions are great and then you have a lot of whale support and everyone has like extra finances, it's very easy to raise money. Like we had no problem raising funds and doing stuff when the market was hot. When the market goes down, I felt like bothered to go to like our whales and our community, be like, hey, can you spare some change? Essentially, I was like, this is gross. Like, I don't want to be doing this. I get we're all in this together, but especially a lot of people, I mean, they're down in their positions. The market's fucked. Like, no, many people don't have like jobs and stuff. So it's I feel bad for even asking. So I was like, okay, I can't really afford to pay this anymore. I don't really want to ask like other people for support. How can we make this sustainable? One, we could build a business, which we are doing, but that requires capital as well. Like we had the whole poster drop, which was great. We made money from that, but like it requires time, effort, and money. Or B, I was like, okay, what if we could do a migration to kind of pump swap and be able to sustain our own ecosystem through the creator fees? Because we get no volume in our project, but like I don't even know, we got like 6K volume in the past like week or something. So it's like we make no money anyway. But the creator fees change that. And I think that creator fees used for the right way with a team that actually knows what they're doing with their fees is something extremely valuable, because then you have this constant treasury that you could fund community ventures with. And I think that like the core people of Y2K have done such a good job of being transparent and showing them that we actually care about the project and community, where the decision we were like, okay, we're going to migrate. It's going to be, there's a lot of pros. There's a couple cons, but like the pros outweigh the cons. And this is just like a necessary business decision. I look at Y2K almost like a business. And I was like, we need to survive. This is how we survive. This gives us so much like a fresh start. Essentially, it's a Renaissance 2.0, which is a rebirth. So it's very fitting with culture. And I was like, okay, what do you guys think about this? I floated it to the community. Everyone was surprisingly extremely supportive. And I think it's, I mean, I'm like fully doxxed. Like my name's out there. Like I show my face. So it's like, I'm not a scammer. I've spent so much time building reputation for my name. I don't want to stain it. So they're like, I don't take it for granted that we have a lot of trust from the community, that they believe in us and the decisions we make that will benefit them. So yeah, it's pretty simple. We're doing the migration February 14th. We'll unlock creator fees. We'll get better supply control, because like if there's any dead wallets that just haven't migrated over, like that just goes to the team wallet. We get the ability to fund community ventures. There's so many people in the community that want to start their own clothing brand, or want to like, we have like Hemp who wants to do like Tamagotchis, but he needs money. And it's like, I can't do that. I don't want to raise. We're not VC backed. Like, how do we do this? We have a company treasury where now we can be, okay, like let's allocate some funds for you. You can essentially use the Y2K IP, grow the brand, build something, add to the network. And we want to hire more creative. We want to hire more talent. Like I'm very passionate about art and like making very sick content, but that's not free. So having a budget for that is just amazing. And so I think it's a very strong move. And I think this is going to be a almost like meta that happens with older projects, because all the best projects have been around for a while. It's very rare for a new project that launches to actually have like a unique narrative, a unique community, not be PvP'd. Like it's so rare nowadays. And a lot of the older communities that are still great, that have like passion behind them, that they're just slowly dwindling down because they have no volume. The market's not there. They can't fund anything. So they're left with nothing. They're like, okay, what do we do? Which is why I think you're going to start to see a bunch of OG projects that aren't on PumpSwap start to migrate on PumpSwap after you have successful migrations. Like we're with the batch with Michi on February 24th. Like DCA had a migration, and you guys are doing better than when you haven't. So I'm like, people, they're starting to be an example of teams that are doing it the right way. And people start to realize, wow, this is such an advantage if you actually have like doing it the right way. You communicate it thoroughly. You have a plan. You have a plan with the funds, like you know what you're doing, then it's a no-brainer, and then it allows you to sustain your ecosystem and then essentially have a new like OG meme like revival renaissance, which I think is going to tie into this whole broader narrative of like the meme renaissance, where all these old OG projects get a fresh light, they get fresh funding, they can actually do things, and then they have the reflexivity. They've been around for a year, they've been around for 6 months, like they have this backing where it's like now they have this ability to fund themselves. And I think it's a great idea. It can be abused, obviously, which is why people hate creator fees, because it just goes to scammy devs. But when used the right way, it's one of the most powerful things in memes, and it's what allows us to sustain like our own economy. So I'm hyped. I'm very excited to do that.
Man, I'm hyped for you guys. And I agree with you when you said, a lot of the creator fees go to scammy devs. The difference between somebody like you, when you've proven yourself over 1 year, 4 months with Y2K and beyond that with your reputation, is you've built up trust with your community, right? So they already have this layer of trust with you that most people don't. And so from my perspective, I feel like when a project like Y2K walks through that fire of migration and comes out on the other side successfully, it's almost like being forged in fire. You're going to come out stronger on the other end for sure, with a whole lot less dead weight.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more, and I'm actually very surprised by the lack of like we have. I don't think anyone, no one, not a single person in the community has criticized our decision.
Wow.
I mean, we take criticism, like I'm very open, but I was like, okay, anyone have any criticisms? Anyone have any, like, everyone's fully
Wow.
supported because they understand how impactful this is. And like they understand like how important like this narrative of tokenized nostalgia is like a one of one. Like Y2K is a one of one. Like we have to do everything in our power to make sure it doesn't die. And this is like what's necessary. So we need to have a rebirth from within, which is what the Renaissance 2.0 is. And everyone's super excited. So yeah, I mean, I just, it's a testament to when you play the game the right way and when you actually care about your community and when you lead by example and when you actually like work hard, people respect that and then they are like aboard. So like that's why I've always been a big proponent of playing the game the right way, because like you get rewarded when you play the game the right way. And it's like I'm very grateful to the community and that they understand the decision the team needs to make, because it benefits the team and it benefits the community. And the cool part is like with Shills, we can use our creator fees fund like the shill campaigns, and that goes back into the community. So we have this new ecosystem being built. So yeah, I'm hyped. Everyone's hyped. Shout out migrate.fun because they're leading that.
Yeah, shout out migrate.fun. They did the migration for DCA as well. And I am just astounded. I got to be honest that you've had no pushback or anything like that. And I fully trust what you're saying. I think that is a testament to the leadership, right? They say shit falls downhill. If the fact that there's been no pushback, no, and you've been honest, you've led with integrity, and people are just like, okay, we're in this with you. That says so much about you and the core guys of your community. That's really, really awesome to see. You just briefly touched on Shills. Why don't you get into Shills? Walk us through the creation of Shills, how that process was. I think that I read that it took you a couple months, maybe 2 months to build. Walk us through that process, and the success of it so far and where you see the future of Shills going.
Okay, so yeah, like I was saying, so I've always dreamt of building a like crypto software company, like a crypto SaaS in the space. And I love the meme space. I love like the culture coin space. I want to build a product for that. And Shills kind of came naturally where my co-founder Cole, he works on like the energy token with Blondish. And she had this idea where she was like, why can't I incentivize like my clippers with my own token, essentially creating like clipping campaigns, but use her token to do that. And similarly, I was thinking it'd be cool to incentivize our community to actually like work for Y2K and get Y2K, because it's kind of hard to expect everyone to just continuously bag work, especially when the market gets hard and you're low market cap. Incentive goes a long way. So we came up with this idea, Shills, which is like now this like what you see today, and it's like community rewards platform that essentially aligns project and like community incentives. And so the beauty of Shills is that you can use your own token to essentially reward your community for action. And I think that these in the space of like meme coins and culture coins and all these assets, like you need action because action builds conviction and conviction builds belief. And all these assets are built on belief because there's no fundamental value. So you do this through daily action, which is like why you have something like DCAing, like DCA, like that is a financial action you do. But it's also very important to also like shill every day, write, create content, because the more you write about something, the more your brain thinks about it, the more your conviction stems. And like anytime I write a banger bull post, I'm like, damn, like this actually is a sick project. It's like I'm not like you're reinforcing your own belief, and I think that's a very important habit to build within the community. And I think that when the market gets tough and prices aren't going the right way, it's hard to do that, and then you quickly spiral out of this loop where it's like, I don't really care about anything anymore. So the incentive is something very important, and I look at it as a way for a project to invest back into their community, because now you're essentially paying them to like get better writers, become better content creators, become better clippers. Like you're rewarding them and incentivizing them to become better. and then they're investing back into you by buying your token, by holding your token. So it's a two-way relationship. And I think that all the best projects understand how valuable community is. And I look at it like a marketing budget. In the normal company sense, companies spend so much money each month to
Yes.
A, acquire new customers, but B, keep their other customers still customers, right? It's like essentially if you look at tokens and memes this way as businesses and companies, like this is a marketing budget where you're spending on your community to keep them being active community members, and you can use your incentivization, like your rewards, to attract new ones, which is exactly what we've seen. So I think it's a perfect tool, because then you also get engagement and attention from your project. And I think that this is like a necessary gap that's been missing in the space, where not a single project has built a tool for the longevity of these assets and for actually the community. And if you look at every other meme company or meme product, it's all about trading, volume, fees, speculation. It's not about longevity, long-term mindset, actually doing something with these assets, using them to reward your community, like turning them into essentially money. Um, and I was like, well, this is a gap that needs to be filled. So essentially, I pretty much went all in on Shills like 3 months ago now. I built it in 2 months. Like shout out like Claude, because like I cannot imagine doing this with AI. It's incredibly like amazing what you can do with like agentic development. And we built it out. We started beta testing, and now we got like 6 projects on. We just broke 1 million impressions. We paid out like 4,000 to like community members, 106 active people earning. And it's like amazing because before, bag workers have never had a platform where they can get rewarded for their bag working. And now they're actually doing it. And I'm seeing it from within. Like the biggest benefit where I saw this to be a use case is how customizable it is. So for example, when I was talking about how before Shills, like it felt like I had key man risk with Y2K, where I was like, I can't really go a day without bull posting because it feels like it's all stemming on me. But then now, like we have shill campaigns going for Y2K all the time. And you have community members who have stepped up. They're now writing, getting better writers, and they're becoming our top shillers. And they're doing a way better shill job than I ever was. And like they weren't doing this before Shills. So now you have this army of people who are now being incentivized to like do amazing work. And now I get a quote tweet this, I get a respond, and now you can see a lot more personalities being created just because they have a little bit of incentive. And another thing is like for Neat, for example, we just had a campaign with Neat, or they have one active right now, where they're now doing meme clipping for their actual Neat token, like logo clipping. And they had like 2 clips for like the Joe Rogan clips go viral that got like 2.7 thousand likes, almost 1 million views. Like they didn't do this before Shills. And like the Shills is now incentivizing them to become better clippers. And this is how memes go mainstream. So you can use Shills for your project's needs to incentivize and reward your community to take action. And like that in turn builds belief and conviction. And then that's what makes your token sustain and last. And I think that this, like I said, is the missing piece. And I'm very happy to be working on a platform that has like this much of an impact on the space, because I think it's something that needs to exist.
Shills is fascinating to me. At first, I couldn't really grasp it, but I can tell you, being involved in DCA, when we signed up for Shills versus now, there is a noticeable difference in posting of our project. And it started with me. Now, I am self-admittedly not the most technologically savvy guy on earth, but it started with me being like, who are these new community members? And there were accounts that I didn't really recognize. And what astounded me at first was I was like, who are these guys? Because they're putting effort into their posts. So, it started with, I just mentally made a note. And then I started going to my community and I was like, who are these guys? And they're like, oh man, they're from Shills. And then it dawned on me. I had kind of an aha moment, and it brought me back to last cycle. Some of the projects, Axie Infinity is one that I think comes to mind, where some of these countries around the world where they were incentivized to video game. Well, the countries that are poor and didn't have much money, these guys were actually making legit wage in their country, doing things that possibly in America wouldn't have been worth our time, quote unquote. And that is one thing that astounded me and was the aha moment of like, wow, these guys are from some of those types of countries. And they're putting serious effort into our project. And not only are they putting serious effort into the project, they're incentivized to do so, which is obviously a meaningful amount for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. And if you think about the growth of a community is putting the energy out there and then eventually having it reciprocated and coming back, right? And who's to say that that energy is coming from me or coming from one of these guys that is working the project through Shills? It could very likely, possibly even more, be coming from them.
Yeah.
What an incredible value for communities. I see this type of thing as being the future of the space. I think it's fascinating. I have seen it work firsthand in my community, and I cannot wait to see what it blossoms into. Where do you think that this is going to grow? Do you think that it's going to just, the ceiling is never ending, meaning communities are just going to be signing up? And also, to speak on that, what is your process with signing these communities up? How are you going about doing that?
Yeah, a couple things I want to say. I think it's great that we're able to provide like opportunities for people, I guess, all across the globe. Obviously, the system gets abused in the beginning, but like the great part about like what we did, especially with DCA, like we rolled out holder only shills for like 2 weeks ago, and like you guys started your campaign before the holder only, and then we were able to add that after. And before, you were getting people that weren't playing the game the right way, because we're still in beta, right? So everyone's going to try to game the system. There's a lot of like things I have to figure out how to make engagement organic, which like we have been doing for a while, and it's a very good system now. But now you're able to flip on, like you have holder only, and what you saw is like even these people that were in like other countries, they actually became DCA holders. Like they're now holders in your community, and then they're working their actual bag, which is great. And I think that you're able to have this incentive structure that allows people to become holders, earn more tokens. Your own community gets incentivized to work. And I'm seeing like even so many posts from your community from the thing, like they're doing like video shills, earning more DCA, and they're talking about how great this is. And I was on a call with, I forget who it was, but he was like, yeah, there's this guy in college who's now getting a bunch of DCA, who like it's a meaningful amount of money to them, because obviously you guys have done so well. And like how Shills works is that when you have the campaign funded, like you fund it with an X amount, but if the token goes up, then the campaign goes up. So the rewards go up. So it has the reflexivity and the volatility of memes in a way that the space hasn't really seen before. And it just adds to that, like fire to the fuel. And I think it's sick. And I think the narrative is going to essentially be every project's going to have like a shield budget and like a shield campaign, because when you have this kind of campaign, it shows that you actually are about community. And a lot of people talk about they're about community. They want to give back to their community, but this is a direct way to do that, where you're using your own token, your supply, you're giving back to your community, back to your believers, back to your holders, and they're rewarding you back. And I think that it just makes sense. Just like every company has a marketing budget that they spend monthly, like every project's going to have a marketing budget. And I think the space is going to clipping and like these kind of reward systems, like similar to WAP and other ones, where they're paying so much money just to get like attention and keep like people recognizing who they are. And I think that this ties in perfectly with creator fees, where now you're getting creator fees. You just take a percentage of those creator fees, put it into shield campaigns, incentivize your community to kind of work, and you redistribute your rewards in a way where you're getting action on the project and they're getting rewarded for that action. And I think that's just a great way to do it. And I think, I'm just like, I could see this becoming a very big platform, and it becomes as common as saying, oh, I'm paying like the DEX, and it's like, oh, I'm funding the shill, because it's just like a no-brainer. Every project is just going to have a shill campaign going at all times, and you're going to have like this whole shill network of people that can earn like actual money becoming like professional shillers by like talking about projects they love, actually holding them, because we have like holder multipliers. And it's just like, I think it's just a fun system. It gamifies the process. We talked about gaming, like a way to gamify the system, make it more fun like a video game, and this is like how it turns into a real video game.
Yeah, gamifying is something that I think really bridges the gap in times of fear, and it keeps people coming back. That is part of what I think makes us human, and that is something that I love about Shills. That's something that I like about Y2K period. I feel a lot of that in your community. Mr.Wzrd, I appreciate you, man. This was an absolutely incredible conversation. I think that you are one of the people in this space that has a tremendous amount of knowledge. You have some of the articles on your page that I recommend anybody go through and read. You put a lot of effort, you put a lot of thought into this space, and I think that you are going to be one of the shining stars. Fast forward 10 years, you're going to be one of the people that's still around and that is being looked to for their opinion. I really do believe that. Now is the time. your links, any shout outs that you want to do, please let us know. Maybe let us know how we can find Shills, how we can find your account. And that's that.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. This was a great conversation, and it's very sick. I love to see communities kind of starting their own like projects and like the podcast here. And like, I know DCA has your platform launch, which is dope. And we're partners with that. So very cool to see. And you guys are on Shills. So it's great that in the depths of like whatever bear market you see, people are coming together, trying to build infrastructure and like coming out the other side way stronger. So very grateful for this opportunity. How you find me? Yeah. 0x Mr.Wzrd on Twitter. Shills is on my profile. And then Y2K is on my profile. And yeah, just shout out those two projects. Shout out everyone who's made the Renaissance what it is. Shout out crypto, and shout out, yeah, I don't know. That's it. Shout out anime. So,
I appreciate you, Mr.Wzrd. Berserker anime, baby. That's anime shout out right there.
Hell yeah. Love Berserker.
I'm going to make sure that we have all your links in the profile so everybody can check it out. I really appreciate you, Mr.Wzrd. I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon. I hope you have a good day.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the DCA podcast with Mr.Wzrd. It was a fantastic interview. I had a great time talking to Mr.Wzrd. He is an outstanding member of the crypto community as a whole. Y2K and Shills, they are going to be good projects. Nostalgia, it hits you in your soul. Absolutely. Please stay tuned for next week's episode with Mr. Metaverse and Doc Jimmy Albrecht, talking about the DCA Markets platform and what it will bring to you all. I hope you guys have a great day.